This show contains profanity, advice you should never follow, humor that you might not enjoy. The names have been changed to protect the guilty. Do not try this at home.
Hey folks, this week my guest is Disco from the Trail Show podcast. You can find them at thetrailshow.com. Also at Trail Show on Twitter. Pretty sure if you're familiar with our show, you're probably familiar with the Trail Show. But if not, check them out. Okay, here we go. Greetings, Yellow Blazers.
Blue Blazers.
Bill Bryson lovers.
Bill Bryson haters.
Earl Schaefer admirers.
Warren Doyle enthusiasts.
Pink Blazers.
Brown Blazers.
Fast paddlers. Oh, fast packers.
Slow rollers.
Graham counters.
Graham crackers.
Filter users.
REI return policy abusers.
Beer drinkers.
Privy stinkers.
Giardia contractors.
Norovirus protractors.
Hikers.
Bikers.
And Pox and Puss likers. This is Pox Holiday sitting across from me.
Disco.
And when we come back, we're going to talk about the fact we're sitting in the basement right now. All right, so here we are in the basement of the Nantahala Outdoor Center Outfitters store, just past the kayak graveyard and the boiled peanut stands. Home of the 2013 kayak championships, in case you saw those signs.
I did see the sign. The freestyle championships.
Yeah,
I saw that.
It was pretty fun, actually.
I missed
Downtown Bryson City, they closed down both blocks of Bryson City.
Okay.
And had a parade for all the people that came in from around the world to be in this kayak championships. And then there's a bridge in downtown Bryson City right across from Everett Street Diner. And they set up next to the bridge like a 30-foot long ramp that started, you got on like at the bridge, and it was just a plywood ramp in your kayak.
Yeah.
And then and at the end was a big up. And you just went up in the air and did all kinds of crazy tricks and that kind of thing. But you'd wind up shooting like 20, 30 feet in the air, and people were doing twists and all that kind of stuff, and landing in the Tuckasegee River right there.
What could possibly go wrong?
Well, luckily...
Did you watch it? Were you there?
I was there for a little bit of it. The one problem I had was...
You weren't broadcasting live from the freestyle championships?
I remember I had been sick all the way up until that day. And I think I just went and was like, okay, I'm going to go. And my wife didn't even go.
Yeah.
And but
syphilis is tough that way.
It is. The problem I had was the entire population of Swain County, which is what NOC and Bryson City is in. The entire population of Swain County was all standing on this bridge watching it.
Okay.
And so you could feel
you're starting to feel the bridge.
Yeah, and it was like, I turned to somebody and I said, it was a guy who used to actually be one of my bosses, and I said, I'm going to go head on out. And he's like, oh, yeah. And I said, yeah, I don't want to be one of those people that says, where were you the day that the
bridge collapsed?
the Swain County Bridge fell down.
Oh
the Everett Street Bridge fell down.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and apologize in advance for our, as heard about on iTunes, shitty sound.
What are you talking about?
We just have a buzz that sometimes happens, and that's one that pops up. We had recently had a really good review about our crappy sound, and it's not the best, but it happens. But I'm going to apologize.
It's free.
Yeah, exactly. It's free.
You can get your money back, right?
I apologize. You and I were talking before we started recording about sound.
Yes.
You have almost an omniscient, godlike reverb to yours. It's not
to my voice.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what that means, but it sounds okay.
You gotta have a like.
Well, hello, Pox Holiday.
Yeah, and you have a little bit of reverb to it, which I like.
Okay.
I really like it. It's not a shot at all. It's not. I'm sorry.
No. I didn't. I've never had anyone tell me I have a reverb in my voice.
I'm a nerd listening to all that stuff.
Yeah, sure.
It's a little bit, but it's a omniscient. Here's the deal.
Okay.
You and I have a similar position in our podcast. We're both what they call a driver.
We're the head tool.
We're the head tool. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We're the drivers.
Right.
And so we kind of have to have that. Gravitas, maybe.
Gravitas. I like the sound of that, man.
But we don't really drive the show. We just kind of more guide people in the right directions. We tell people when we have to take breaks.
Yeah.
We hit the button when to play the voicemail or whatnot.
Right.
So yeah, but our job is just to make everybody else look really good.
Yeah, and I failed miserably at that with the trail show.
No, not at all. Well, what I was going to ask, because I've only one time, 2 or 3 times, I guess now, counting trail days. have I had to drive a show with 4 people total.
Okay.
You know, so for me, it's just me and Puss.
Yeah.
And then 1 or 2 guests.
Right.
You come stock with 4 people, 4 strong personalities.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I mean, is it
It's
difficult
tough.
to drive a 4-person show?
Yeah, if I tell you what, man, the beauty of editing is amazing, because we've had some people say, "Hey, have you guys thought about putting webcams up while you're doing the show?" And I'm just like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And it's because, you know, if we give you a 2-hour show, we probably recorded 3 hours of audio.
Yeah.
And frankly, the hour you don't hear, that's me like herding cats, man.
Yeah.
It's haranguing. And I, you know, POD, Mags, and D-Lo, I love them to death. But we do what any hikers do when they get together. We start talking trail. We
Yep.
get way off topic. And we actually have a show sheet, because there are enough people in the room, like, just to stay on task.
Yeah.
We have kind of an agenda.
Yeah.
And some episodes, we'll have the 4 of us plus 2 guests.
Right.
And not only, and it's a little, you know, just like with you, you work the board for your show.
Right.
So, you know, we'll have 4 in the room, 2 guests. I'm working the board, playing way too many sound effects, as you brought up earlier.
No,
And,
not anymore.
and organizing Skype calls, and it's you know, it's basically like quarterbacking.
Yeah.
You know, you're just keeping everything in line and then trying to keep everything in line and going in order. But it's tough, man. It's tough. There's a lot of moving parts. You know.
Yeah.
I like this format better, because I feel like when you're sitting in the room with one other person, you can have a legitimate conversation.
Yeah, yeah. Not that some of this shit won't make it in.
Yeah, no.
Because Puss and I will sit there.
Yeah.
Last time, before episode 43, we recorded for 4 hours.
Oh my gosh.
And I think I put out a 53-minute show.
What'd you do with the rest?
Puss and I have known each other for probably 8-9 years now, maybe close to 10 years.
Okay.
And we used to work with a lot of the same people. We talk a lot of shit
Yeah.
about people we know.
Okay.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
somebody we know that's recently pregnant or whatever. We'll just and then we basically will go, did you see their Facebook post? And it'll just get on a tangent like that. The other week, I came back from the bathroom break, and I was like, I know what we could talk about. We could talk about, I had an idea. I don't even know where the hell it came from, but I was like, this'll get us going.
Yeah.
And it was about if you ever threw up when you were like in elementary school in public, or have you ever thrown up in front of someone in public or in a
Right.
And then we got like 20 minutes down the line, and 15 minutes or 5 minutes in, I was like, oh God, this is a horrible idea. And Puss had this great story that didn't want to interrupt, and then it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And then I told my end, and it was like, well, there was an hour. And she's like, where was that going? I'm like, I don't know. Like when I was in the bathroom, it sounded like a really great idea.
Yeah.
But we'll have those. We also, in that 4 hours, we started a second show, but we got drunk. We got drunk, and to the point where I was kind of like,
oh, you're recording shows back to back.
yeah, a lot of times we'll do 2 shows. And,
that's a
well, because I have to go
like
down 4.5 hours to go record
geez.
with her. So
Yeah.
it's like we do them every other week. It's a lot easier if I just knock one out.
See, I only
one
had to
day.
drive 2 hours and 45 minutes from Gaffney, South Carolina, to meet you here, man. That's a shorter commute than what you have to do to go to Puss's
I'm
house.
so-
I've been coming to NOC since I was 8 or 9 years old.
Really?
Yeah, man. My
Paddling?
dad, rafting.
Yeah.
Me and my dad would come up here every summer, like clockwork. Basically from the age of 8 to about 25, 26.
Wow.
I rafted the Nantahala every single summer.
Yeah.
So every time I come back, it's almost like a little nostalgic for me.
Yeah.
And the other thing that our AT folks might be interested in or not. So when I was about, I'd say 12, 13 years old, we were here on a rafting trip one day, and I was bored. I started walking around the parking lot, walked over to the railroad tracks, and I saw a sign and a path, and I walked over there, and I was like, what is this?
Uh-huh.
And it's the Appalachian Trail, and, I was 12. I didn't know what the Appalachian Trail was.
No.
So I just kind of, I probably walked 10 feet on it, turned around, and went back and, did whatever I did. And then I think I was about 15 or 16. I was in the store here and kind of just, killing time, looking through their guidebooks, and they had an AT data book. And so I picked it up, still didn't really know what the AT was.
Yeah.
And I looked through it, and I'm like, start Georgia to Maine. And then I flipped through, and I found the Nantahala River, and it all just sort of dawned on me that little path across the railroad tracks goes from Georgia to Maine.
Yeah.
So I still just kind of filed it away.
Yeah.
And then my 10th grade year, going into high school, I took a outward bound course in Cobb's.
Yeah.
And we spent 4 days on a section of the AT that crossed the North Carolina-Georgia border. And so at that point, I definitely knew what the AT was. It kicked my ass. And next thing you know, I go to college, and my buddy sets off to hike the AT, and he had a pre-existing brain tumor he didn't know about, and he actually had a cerebral hemorrhage on the trail in the Whites.
Oh, wow.
And he didn't...
Did he start in Georgia?
No, he did a flip-flop. He started in Harper's Ferry, was headed to Maine, was going to flip back down. He got to Mount Lincoln, and had been, migraine headache for 2 days, and just, it was a brain tumor hemorrhage, and he died. And
right there?
Yeah.
On Lincoln?
On Lincoln.
Wow.
And it was, I was 21, he was 22. I never had a friend die like that.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to piece it all together, and he'd sent me his mail drop list, and I was mailing him like Gatorade and Snickers bars or something.
Yeah.
All I could afford
classics.
Being in college.
Yeah.
And so his mom, who's from Hendersonville, organized a memorial hike for him the next year, which was, he was on the trail in 97. The memorial hike was in 98. So that was my first hike in the Whites. And we did a hike up from Franconia Notch to Mount Lincoln and then back down.
Yeah.
And it was...
You're good. Don't worry about it.
How's it going?
You're good. Don't worry.
Yeah, so I met some Thru-Hikers that day. And, it was all just kind of coming together. And by the end of the day, I just said, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And the following March, I was on the trail.
Wow.
So but it all started here in NOC.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool because I'm 38. That goes back 30 years that I first started coming to this river.
Yeah, that's pretty
and
crazy.
going rafting. So
I didn't have. Well, one thing that happened to me when I was actually hiking the AT, you kind of having that moment of realization. I remember when I was a kid, we went through the Shenandoah. I was really young, and we went through the Shenandoah, driving through it on our way for somebody. It was me, my mom, and my grandma.
Yeah.
And we pulled over on some, one of the pull-offs right there that you pass 10,000 times in the Shenandoah. And I remember walking through this one area and like coming out to the parking lot when I was hiking. This is when I was hiking the AT.
Sure.
And I came out of this parking lot and was like,
oh.
And I turned
a little
around,
deja vu.
And it was like I turned around and I actually walked back about 50 feet and was like, this is it. When I was a kid, we pulled off there and I saw a deer. And it was like, wow. And I just like walked
What
into
is
the
that?
woods, and I had a camera, and I grew up on a 10-acre tobacco farm.
Really?
So yeah. Well, I didn't do tobacco. The tobacco was around us. I mean, there's deer everywhere, but I'm like...
You were doing the marijuana, man. You didn't even... You skipped right past tobacco and went straight to the hard stuff.
When I was 8 years old, yes. and so it was a rough tobacco farm.
Yeah.
And but no, I just remember I remember walking through there and like taking pictures of this deer, but having to conserve because it was film. I want to get pictures of this deer, but it was like, there I am, 16 years later or whatever, like, this is that place where I took the picture of the deer. Like, oh my God. And it just kind of all clicked. And same thing happened to me when I saw Chunky Gal Trail.
Oh yeah, man. That's a classic.
Yeah. We used to camp really close to there because we had family friends who had property close to there. And so I remember one time walking through and just being like, Chunky Gal Trail. And I was probably like 10 or 11 years old. Like, that's a great name, and then came across it on the AT. Like, oh shit.
So how long is the Chunky Gal Trail? Is it?
I have no recollection.
Could you do an overnight hike on the Chunky Gal Trail?
I don't think it's that far from the road.
Okay. I bet one of your listeners knows this
and
bit of information.
Yeah.
So
they're like,
please let us know.
Yeah, no, I don't remember. I just remember popping out onto it and seeing it there and taking a picture of it when I was a kid.
Okay.
And then taking a picture of it then, of course, whenever I was on the trail, 15 years later or whatever it was, yeah. But I just remember that and, but I don't know. I don't know how long it is, but I know that when I went through there in '98, that's where they found Rudolph's car.
Yeah. Oh, is it?
Yeah, they found the
At
car.
that-
He had stolen a car or borrowed a car from somebody.
Borrowed.
I think he borrowed it, but they made it out later that he stole it because if he had borrowed it from this guy, then the guy would have gotten in trouble.
Right.
But yeah, no, but they found it like
Yeah.
2 weeks after I went by. But when they did the prints, they were like, oh, this was here like 2.5 weeks ago.
And you were 98,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So I was 99.
Oh, okay.
And those signs were still posted on the trail in
Oh, yeah.
99.
Yeah.
Especially all through here. You know,
Yeah.
FBI, it was all, whatever the FBI sign was. And they hadn't found him at that point.
No, actually, I started working here at the NOC Outfitter store in 2000.
Oh, you're alumni.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And in
Very
2004,
good.
he got caught, I think, a week or so before I started working here in Andrews.
Okay.
And everyone that worked here swore up and down that if you go out the front door of the Outfitter store, you'll see the store across the street where they sell the beer. And it's
Here?
like- yeah. Like
They
there's,
sell beer here now?
yeah, yeah.
I'm hiking the AT again. Man. We had to go into Bryson City in
Yeah.
99 to get beer.
I remember I didn't get beer until we got to Fontana, and a guy drove us to the Ingalls in Bryson City and then drove us back.
Well, I thought this was a dry county.
It was. Oh, it still is. But the thing is that here in Swain County,
Yeah.
if you are a resort. So what NOC did was they knocked down about 20 parking spaces and they put up a tennis court.
Oh, I noticed
That
the
makes you
tennis
a
court
resort.
on Google Maps.
That makes you a resort if you have a tennis court.
I love loopholes.
Yep.
I really do.
Boom. Yeah, because there used to be, there's the Nantahala Village a few miles
Yeah.
away, and it was a resort because
Right.
they had tennis courts, which literally had basketball goals on either end. And that's what they were mainly used for. And so they started selling booze, and NOC was like, what the hell? So now everywhere you go in NOC, there's a flat screen TV
Yeah.
and cable. And again, like I was telling some guy that was down here earlier, I'm like, I have 3G reception in the basement of the NOC store. And it was
No
like when I worked
kidding.
here, like, A, nobody had a cell phone.
Right.
And B, if you had one. But I remember there's a trail called the Flint Ridge Trail. It's a really cool mountain biking trail behind NOC or on NOC property. And when you get to the top of it, there's like 10 switchbacks that take you a mile to get up to the top. And when you're at the top, you can look over
Yeah.
and there's a cell tower. And everybody freaked out. Like, oh, there's a cell tower. But then
Right.
everybody got phones and they don't bitch as much anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, I got one
Please.
other quick
No,
AT
please.
story.
Yeah.
So, and I never made the connection, but when I was in high school in Gaffney, South Carolina,
Is that close to Greenville? Or
oh yeah, it's
I feel like I've seen the
it's
name.
40 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fly into Greenville Airport when I come home.
All of our television commercials in Western North Carolina are South Carolina related. So I
Oh really?
Yeah, I see
That's unfortunate.
all of your used car salesmen.
Oh yeah.
Under that big O
Oh
sign.
geez, big O Dodge, man.
Yeah.
Give it up. Okay, so before I forget, when I was in high school in Gaffney, we used to drive up to Hot Springs to party.
To go to the hot springs?
No, we would. So Hot Springs, North Carolina.
Right.
We would drive up to the campground, right there on the
Yeah.
French Broad River, just to get drunk. And that's a bit of a haul from Gaffney. It's at least probably a 2.5 hour drive.
Yeah.
But the funny thing about that is, we would drive up and tell the parents we're going camping.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
we were.
Yeah.
We were camping
Technically, yes.
with beers,
Yeah.
of course. And the crazy thing is that the whole time I was doing that as a delinquent youth, I never realized that the trail went
Right by it.
went
You probably
through
walked in to go
town
to the convenience
and
store.
out of town. Yeah, it never dawned on me. I think when I finally got in college, I realized it. But talking about those deja vu moments,
Yeah.
when I finally hiked the AT, you go right downtown, you go right by the campground and
Yeah.
up the hill, and that really brought back a lot of
Like, oh,
fun
that's
memories.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, I think I passed out in that campsite over there one night.
So you were like 23, 24 when you hiked?
Oh, I was 22. I was
22, yeah.
right out of college.
Yeah, because you and I
Yeah.
are the same age.
I wonder what the average age of podcasters is. I wonder if it's in that 30s,
It's gotta be in the
late 30s,
30s.
mid 30s, somewhere in there.
You don't run across, of course, maybe it's just the circles we run in, but I don't run across a lot of 20-somethings,
Mm-mm.
especially early 20-somethings,
Right.
because they're not going to listen for an hour. We get a few. We do get a few, obviously. I mean, I know you guys do, too.
Well, let me ask you this. Do
Yeah.
you get listeners that are like, if your show goes longer than normal, do you ever get people like, they'll say, hey, man, that was a long show?
Nobody says a long. Well, we rarely do a long one anymore. We did some
Okay.
long ones early on, and then we broke them up into two.
Yeah.
And what I found is when you do break up the second part, people don't listen to the second part. They just think like, oh, this must be the
Right.
bad stuff. It's like, no, it was just like an interview with Baltimore Jack. It's
Yeah.
not going to be a one-parter.
Well, my whole thing with podcasts is that, really the listeners control the content and how they listen to it.
Right.
So we put 3 breaks in our shows, and my thought is, if you got a problem with the length of the show, maybe just listen to a segment at a time.
Right.
Split it up into 4 parts. And I feel dumb to even have to say this out loud, but I think people try to listen to a 2.5 hour podcast all the way through, and
Right.
I think that's a bad idea because
Right.
my attention span,
Yeah.
and I'm late 30s, and my attention span's better than, let's say, someone in their early 20s, but
Right.
still. I'm not going to listen to 2.5 hour podcasts.
Yeah.
I mean, Joe Rogan's podcasts are 3
hours,
hours
yeah.
longer, and they were great on boring sections of the GR11 in Spain. I would actually listen to 3 hours at a clip and then listen
Yeah.
to another one because
Yeah.
I was losing my mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I don't really know. I feel like with documentary films, the sweet spot's an hour and 15 minutes.
Right.
And I think with podcasts, I don't know that there is a sweet spot. It really depends on how you listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
And I mean, it sounds like you guys are comfortable with doing like a 1 hour, close to
Yeah,
maybe a little
1
less than 1 hour
hour-ish, yeah,
show.
yeah.
And
Now we put them out twice as often though, because we do 2 a month.
So we do
Yeah.
1 a month.
Right,
And
yeah.
that's the other thing is like, well, if we put out a really long show, you might not get another show for 5 weeks.
Right.
So don't listen to it all at once.
exactly.
Break it up.
Yeah.
And we had one listener email us saying, I listen to 5 minutes at a time. And I was like, okay, that's like how D-Lo reads Wild by Cheryl Strayed. He reads like 2 sentences a night and puts
Yeah.
the book away. That's why he's taking him 12 months to read it. But anyway.
I posted the other day that I was going to start listening to it.
To what?
Wild.
Audiobook.
Yeah, I was going to start listening to Wild on
I can't do
audiobook.
it. I can't do it.
just didn't.
Yeah.
I've talked about it before, but I work a job where I can wear earbuds for 8 straight hours. And
Really?
Yeah. I've got a shitty job. But so I can I literally listen to between 9 and 10 hours of podcasts a day. Between driving to work,
Yeah.
working 8 hours, my lunch break,
Sure.
and then driving home, 9.5 hours worth of podcasts. So like I'll listen to 1 or 2 Joe Rogans in a clip because I've got the time.
Yeah.
What I absorb, that's another thing.
Sure.
It's like, I don't really hear it all, but
Right.
but yeah, so I do enjoy the longer ones.
Right.
But I can see, like, I don't know, on Stitcher,
Yeah.
when you look at Stitcher, you can see how long people listen to your things. You can tell
Sure.
the average listening length.
You
and
see
all
when
that
they
stuff.
cut out, they've had enough.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, you listened for 45 minutes. It was 55 minutes long. Like, and you're just like,
Yeah, you're
it's
like,
just
what happened there?
Yeah, what was that
Was there a
last 10
bathroom
minutes?
emergency?
And the one thing I do worry about sometimes is that our shows, by the end of it, one of us is drunk. So sometimes
Yeah.
it is a little bit of a struggle at the end there.
Sure.
That was one thing I wanted to ask you about driving the show is, now you guys, I'm sure if somebody's listening to our podcast, they listen to yours. It's one of those.
Well,
it seems like
we're going to tell all our folks to download episode 44.
Yeah, exactly. So if they're not, but you guys, every week, every month, you have a specific beer you drink, or
Yeah.
you're sponsored by a beer company, or
Right.
something like that. So drinking beer is part of your show.
Oh, been that way since the beginning.
Has there ever been stuff you couldn't use because somebody got too drunk?
Frankly, the first 3 shows should have all just been whack because I was playing too many sound effects and we got too tipsy. And yeah, I was having to cut a lot of slurred speech in the last 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Of all 3 of the first shows. And so what we did is we had a show meeting.
Yeah.
And we said, okay, because we all had our pint glass and
Yeah.
we'd fill it up. So what we did is we switched to these 4-ounce sample glasses.
Uh-huh.
And that's made all the difference.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
we'll drink, we'll keep them going. But what it does is, at some point you finish your little 4-ounce sample glass and it's not convenient to get a refill because we're in the middle of a segment.
Right.
So it kind of prolongs the refill situation.
Yeah.
And we had to do something because I edit the show too.
Yeah.
And I already do a lot of editing as it is. I think I was telling you about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, with the slurred speech, it was getting even tougher for me to because I think whatever our show, whatever the raw audio is, like let's say I record 2 hours of raw audio, I'll spend 4 hours editing. It's always about double.
Always at least 4 hours.
But with slurred speech, you start tacking on extra time because that's a whole other, and then you end up.
You also have long pauses.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. It's like, you're looking at it, you're like, and
right.
And you got like, it's funny because like we were talking about beforehand, like you look at the screen, like I posted a picture of it last week whenever Puss said something really funny, it went, and you get to see it real big. And then there was a bunch of chattered stuff at the end.
Yeah.
And I posted a picture of that. But like, it's funny because when you see, oh my God, I didn't say anything for 4 seconds. And you can see it on the screen.
Oh, yeah.
You're like,
I cut out that stuff.
Yeah,
too.
exactly. Me too. Yeah, you kind of have to kind of nip it down a little bit.
You have to keep it tight.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with editing video. You don't want long pauses, especially, but probably more so with radio and audio. Like, you got to keep the listeners listening, and you don't want them to get 45 minutes in and peace out.
Yeah.
But they might anyway. You never know.
Sometimes when there's a long pause, I wind up pulling out my iPod. Like, is there? Oh, it's still playing. Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. You think like, did it turn off? Did playback fail?
Yeah.
Which happens occasionally on there.
Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. Playback fail is not what you want to see.
No.
Have you ever lost a show?
No. I was actually thinking about it before this. One time, luckily we didn't have a guest for this show, but one time Puss came over to my house. Maybe like our second or third episode. No, it would have been our third episode. She came over. We used to record every Sunday night. She came over, and we were still so green. We had like just this loud buzz throughout the entire thing, and I'm sitting there like switching everything over. Like I can't figure out what's going on.
What is it?
I'm like, oh God, what's happening? Just switch between every single channel I have, trying to figure out what we can do. And it was just like, well, I guess it's a loss, I guess. And so she left. And I'm still down there just working, like, what's wrong? And it was like I literally had to just click one thing on here from the microphone input. I had the wrong microphone input on the actual computer.
Yeah.
And all it took was me clicking on it on a down screen and click. Oh, there it is. Yeah. And at that point in time, it was like, well, it's 2 hours after we were supposed to start.
Right.
We're not going to have one this week. And I think that's where the first OPP episode came from.
And that's good. That was one of my questions for you. I had actually wrote
Nobody
a few down.
listens to those.
Well, I was going to say you haven't done an OPP episode since September of last year.
Yeah.
That was number 8, Death by Chocolate.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Nobody listens to them.
Don't axe the OPP episodes. Those are kind of fun, man.
It's been a year since we did one.
September 2013.
Wow.
Was your last OPP.
It when you look at all the stats, if you arrange them all by order of downloads,
sure,
all of them are at the bottom.
But the way I see it is that it's bonus content.
Yeah.
If you're a hardcore Pox and Puss listener like myself, if you guys throw out some bonus content, I'm all in, man.
Yeah,
I'm downloading that. I'm listening to that.
Yeah. Well, I started one. I started one that was just Tom Rhodes and Bert Kreischer.
Okay.
Because we had a lot of stories that didn't make it in.
Sure.
That had nothing to do with the trail.
Okay.
Like Tom Rhodes and I talk about Blind Melon for about 20 minutes at one point in time, and let's see, Bert Kreischer, man, he really told a story that I was like, I don't think I should put this on there because
too over the top for Pox and Puss. Come on.
It was too over the top for it to be in public for him.
So it was more him than you.
I was worried it was going to get him in trouble. It was about his show. What's it called? Trip Flip.
Yeah.
And it was behind the scenes stuff, and it was about an issue he had with somebody.
Yeah.
And the issue she had with him, and it was like, oh, I love this story, but I don't want to be the guy that gets Bert Kreischer in trouble for this story. It was one of those where I was like,
And you don't want to get like some kind of follow-up message from Bert's PR guy.
Yeah, exactly. This is a fucking hobby.
Right. Yeah, I think I would have done the same thing.
It was like, man. I edited it down, but like,
yeah.
So there's some other things that he told that were kind of funny, and so I just kind of put together a Tom Rhodes, Bert Kreischer one that I've been fiddling with, and it's actually even labeled episode OPP number 9.
Okay.
But I just haven't done it yet. Hey, just breaking in here for a minute. I want to congratulate this week's Appalachian Trail Thru-Hikers. Misty Pony finished on September 27th. Bad Camel and Popeye on September 25th. Chip finished October 2nd. What is that? A drone flying over you? That's a pretty awesome shot. Train finished on September 20th. Apollo finished October 3rd. Zig finished October 4th. Sherpa, October 3rd. Ladybug and Bullseye, October 3rd. Sweet Tooth and Rocky, September 30th. Mighty Blue, September 29th. Styles, September 24th. Cheeky Chee, October 3rd. Hey, if you finished the AT this year and you'd like to let us know about it and like to hear your name on here, if you'd like to have your name up on the Appalachian Trials website under the Congratulations to This Week's Thru-Hikers page, send an email to thegoodbadger@gmail.com. Send them your photo, your trail name, the date you finished, and any other pertinent stuff. Okay, congratulations, everybody. We should set the stage of what we're doing right now, where we are right now.
Yeah, we're in there's a rack of clothes right beside my head.
We're sitting on 2-foot-tall ladders.
It smells like new shoes down here.
Yeah, there's a pile of them right behind
Pile
me.
of Keens behind you.
Yeah, tons of Keens.
Are Keens a Pox and Pucks sponsor, or should I not mention them by name?
Oh, we don't have any sponsors.
Okay, very good. We got Solomon's, we got Tevas, we got Woo Wear. I see some Woo Wear down here, some Rocka Wear. What else?
Some, God.
Oh, we got Beaners,
Yeah,
Kirby Man, we got
Kirby
Cords.
Man Beaners. We have Now Jeans behind you. We have my computer
Carabiners.
sitting on a stack of cardboard.
Yeah.
Today's episode is brought to you by Modelo.
Yeah, believe it or not, that beer was cold when it showed up.
Yeah.
I just had it sitting on the floorboard with my down jacket over the top as an insulator.
I wondered what that was. I didn't see what it was at first.
It's like packs
Yeah.
into a pocket.
I was
kind of
wondering, I was
thing.
like, is that full of ice?
Yeah, no.
I
No,
thought it
it's
was
just,
a Silnai bag full of ice or
It's
something.
just straight cans.
Nice. Can I have another one?
You bet.
Okay, good.
I've got I brought a 6 because I didn't know how many. Maybe I should have brought 12, but I too have to drive out of here at
I
some
think
point.
this is going to be the limit for me.
Hey, I did a quick
Lunch
hike
beers.
on the AT before
Oh, yeah? How far?
I met up. I went
Across
up,
the bridge?
No, I went up. Yeah, same as when I was 8. No, I went up 15 minutes
Yeah.
and came back 15 minutes.
So you got close to Rufus Morgan's shelter.
Did I?
That's always the way I've said Rufus Morgan. I've always thought Rufus Morgan sounded like a very distinguished black man.
Yeah, I bet he was.
Rufus Morgan shelter.
Well, I bet one of your listeners is like, oh, I knew Rufus Morgan is my
He was
grandfather.
a racist white guy.
He might have been, Pox.
Yeah, you know. So Billie Holiday filled in.
Billy. By the way, one of the things I liked about the Bert Kreischer show is you unveiled a little nugget of secrecy that your wife actually does the intro voice on the disclaimer.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, really?
I thought it was actually Puss trying to sound really formal.
Oh yeah, no, that's my
Because
wife.
it sounds legit, man. That warning.
Yeah.
You know, I never try anything you guys say just because of what your wife says at the beginning of the shows. You know,
Well,
I'm nervous. I get nervous.
It started with we were going to have every guest read that. So if you go back,
Oh, that's a neat idea.
yeah, the first one I think I read it maybe, and then the second one Ice Cold read it,
Yeah.
and then the third episode we didn't have a guest, so my wife came down. I was like, hey, would
Right.
you mind reading this out? And she's like, yeah, sure. And then we plan on having our
Yeah.
guests read it every time, and then it was just like, I like that one. I don't want to have to fuck with it ever again.
Yeah. Yeah, it keeps things simple on the editing side of things. You
Yeah.
just drop it in.
I have it's a little file called intro, and it has her intro and all
Yeah.
the music for it, and boom, 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 boom.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
By the way, we were talking about Puss in Boots. So one thing, and I wish he was here, one thing that you guys have never revealed is the origin of her trail name. Do you know it?
I'll let her tell it.
But let's Skype her, man. Let's Skype her in. I know she's at her. No, I need to
No, she
know.
did. She did. She
Because,
talked about it.
You know,
She-
Puss is a bold woman.
Oh yeah,
And that is a bold trail name.
yeah.
Because it can be interpreted and misinterpreted in a couple different ways.
I think she did talk about it. She said that.
No, dude.
She said- maybe I edited
comb
it
the
out.
files. I comb the Pox and Puss audio files. She does not give a definitive explanation of that trail name.
I think she said it was because she was one of the only women out there at the time. And
Okay.
so she went with. I think just her boldness drew her to that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll let her tell it. I don't really know the whole story.
Well, the other thing I picked up on, maybe it was episode 43, she mentioned being Irish Catholic. And
Yeah.
okay, so she's not from south of the Mason-Dixon line. There's no way she can be from the Southland.
I don't think originally.
She grew up somewhere north of
Yeah.
Harper's Ferry. I guarantee.
Yeah. I think for a while. Well, you and I were talking earlier that she was a brat, so she moved around. A lot.
She was an Army brat.
Yeah, so she moved around a lot, and but I think they've been in North Carolina the longest. Her
Yeah.
family is in North Carolina. I know that.
But her parents are not. They can't be Southerners, man.
I don't think so. No.
Yeah.
No,
No. You know, the reason I know this is because I grew up in Gaffney, South Carolina.
But
and,
there's one thing: you don't pronounce the name of the Appalachian Trail properly to be from South Carolina.
Well, here's the thing, man. So I grew up in Gaffney. I went to college at Clemson.
Okay, yeah.
And hiked the AT right after Clemson.
Yeah.
And then immediately moved to Rhode Island.
Oh, okay.
And it's because I'd met a girl at Clemson, and she stayed with me through the whole trail, almost kicked me to the curb in Maine, which was unfortunate. But
mine did it in New York. Yeah.
yeah, it happens. Trail's tough on relationships.
Yeah.
It really is.
Especially pre-cell phone era.
Oh yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. No kidding. Where's the payphone?
Yeah.
You know, that was even pre-pocket mail in the late '90s.
Yeah.
I want to say.
I can't wait to talk. We're going to have someone on our show talk about technology, and Hawkeye introduced me to Pocket Mail.
Did he?
And I got it one year. I think I used it in 2003 when I used to work out west.
I used it in 04
and
on the PCT.
Yeah, maybe 65% success rate on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But back to Rhode Island. So I moved to Rhode Island, and I was living in Newport, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
And Rhode Islanders have their own crazy New England accent.
Right.
It's different than Boston. It's different than Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. Maine has their own thing. Anyway, so I just got screwed with relentlessly. They were like, "What are you going to do to the lights? You going to cut them on?" And I was like, "Turn on the lights. You going to cut the grass? Mow the lawn?" So I basically...
Wow. You can't say cut the grass around Rhode Island?
No. They don't know what that is.
Wow.
They were like, "What are you going to cut? Like, what are you talking about? You want to cut everything. You want to cut the lights. You want to cut the grass." No. But I got screwed with so much. I just started consciously dialing back my accent, which was normal to me.
Right.
And then I moved back to Virginia, went to grad school at Virginia Tech, and stayed in Virginia for a while. I moved to Colorado in 2005. And Colorado, it's such a melting pot of...
Yeah.
Nobody's from Colorado.
Right.
People just
But they're
move
pissed
there.
you moved there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No one's from there, but they're pissed.
Yeah,
you
they're mad. But it's kind of a neutral accent in Colorado.
Yeah.
So I've been there 10 years now. I've been there enough that, the only time it really comes back is like this past weekend when I was at my 20th anniversary high school reunion.
Yeah.
And you start getting a couple beers in you, and and you're with all your buddies from Gaffney.
Yeah. Next thing you know.
Back in Gaffney, we said, "Never slap a man who's chewing tobacco." That's a House of Cards quote. by
Oh,
the
okay.
way.
I haven't. See, you asked about House of Cards. I
man.
haven't. House of Cards.
What?
Game of Thrones.
Kevin
None of that.
Spacey's character, Frank Underwood, is from Gaffney.
That's right.
On the show. And I want to know which one of their writers or producers, like who found Gaffney on the map
Yeah.
and said, "We're going to make the main character of this show
Yeah.
from that town."
Fucking Gaffney.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm allowed to cuss, right?
Yes, please
okay.
do.
Damn it. Hell. Son of a bitch. Oh, and by the way, so the only photos I've ever seen of you involved a bag over your head.
Yes.
So when
I'm
I...
not far off with Zach Galifianakis.
Right.
And right now, I definitely have a Zach Brown.
You talking about the beard?
I have the beard and the toboggan.
Okay.
Yeah. That. And by the way, you and I are dressed completely opposites.
What do you mean?
I had on a vest and
Yeah.
a fucking toque and long pants, and you're here in a pair of short pants and a t-shirt.
I got my NCOB shirt.
It's probably warm to you from where you're from.
Oh God,
Yeah.
My mom she's always like, is it too? Do you want me to turn on the heat? And I'm just like, are you kidding me? I can barely keep a sheet on me at night, and she's going crazy, you know. And but anyway, I was going to ask you something, and it just escaped.
This is what happens on our show.
Yeah. And I'm not even through my first beer, so I've got no excuse. Oh, yes. So when I first saw you,
Yes.
you didn't have a bag over your head.
Right.
And
I do now, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
What? And it's kind of like, have you ever seen a picture of Terry Gross? She does All Things Considered on NPR.
Yes. I believe mine has been the Diane Reeves.
Yeah, okay.
That's the one where you're like, well, that's Diane. I thought Diane Reeves was 90 years old.
Well, I think so what happens is most people that listen to someone on radio or podcasts and you've never seen that person, you hear their voice a lot.
Right.
You feel like you know them. And you draw this visual image of what you think that they look like.
Right.
And I did that with Terry Gross, okay? Because I'd heard All Things Considered, or does she do another show? I can't remember. Anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway, I went on NPR's website one day, and I found her, and I was devastated.
Yeah, yeah.
Because she looked nothing like what that voice sounded like. Mm-hmm. And I don't really know what I was expecting you to look like because I've only seen the brand. No, actually, well, I mean, you kind of look like a Thru-Hiker. You got a beard. You look like you're ready to hit the trail.
Yeah, I look like I look like I'm ready to hit the trail because I could stand and lose a few pounds. I understand what you're saying.
You do an AT podcast.
Yeah.
I just kind of had this AT Thru-Hiker, bearded hiker vision image in my mind. So this wasn't that far off, but yeah, Diane Reeves.
Yeah.
Terry Gross.
I think that's one of the reasons we've kept the bags. For me, I know it has, is because...
I'm glad you brought this up because I have questions about the bags.
Well, I know for me, I used to be a really big fan of like local radio DJs.
Sure.
In Raleigh, where I grew up, we had 106.1, which was like for 10 years straight ranked like one of the number one radio stations in America in Rolling Stone.
What?
We had it was like that album format where it was like they got to play wherever they wanted to play.
Okay.
And so it wasn't all like, so it was like they'd play like 2-3 songs in a row by an artist that maybe you never heard of, but they'd play like 2-3 songs in a row, or they'd play like, they'd play the big hits every once in a while. But so I became I don't want to say infatuated, but I just came like really engrossed in all the DJs.
Yeah.
And then you see them.
Yeah.
Then you go to like something where it's like, oh, such and such is here today. Like, and you're like,
yeah,
that's what Bob the Blade looks like.
It's very disappointing
like,
usually, isn't
Bob
it?
the Blade doesn't look like somebody who should have the name the Blade in his name at all.
Yeah, you think he's going to look like Braveheart,
right?
And he looks like Barney Fife.
Yeah, it was not far off, but yeah. So I think it's kind of like, why ruin it for folks?
Well,
but we're not far off. We have Zach Galifianakis and Puss says that she looks. People say Sarah Gilbert. From
who was that?
She was one of Roseanne's daughters.
Okay,
but
I'm out of the Roseanne loop, man.
Yeah, exactly. It was when she said it was like, huh, okay, but yeah, no. I think she looks like somebody else, but it's only in the face. And if I say out loud who it is, she's gonna be pissed because it's a very large woman.
Okay.
And Puss is not a large woman. It's just in her eyes and her face. She looks like this one famous large woman.
There's nothing wrong with large women.
No, but she would be upset if I said it because it's. But yeah, God, how do we get on that? So you have more bag questions?
Oh yeah. So
okay, please.
See, now I always thought like maybe you guys were in the witness protection program, or there was something to do with your jobs. You wanted to keep your real identities hidden. You wanted to keep your podcasting life and your real life separate.
Yeah.
Is that basically what it is?
Yeah. That really is it. Just kind of like, yeah.
So are you worried there would be repercussions if your employer found out you were on here, dropping the F? Is it the cursing? Is it the content of the show? What is it?
I think it's just easier to be anonymous. Like it's just kind of easier just to kind of be like, it is what it is. This is me. Mm-hmm. I think there were like other issues early on, but like we don't. Like, I'd say maybe of my Facebook friends, for real, friends, maybe like 10 of them follow us, but that's just because they know us.
Okay.
I do not put up stuff on my personal website or personal Facebook page or Twitter or anything like that promoting it at all. It's like it's
separate.
Well, what happened was early on, I told a lot of my friends, like, listen to this, and they didn't. And I kind of was like, why wouldn't they? And then it was like, well, why would
What's
they?
a podcast?
Well, yeah, why would they listen? They hear me fucking talk all the time. Yeah. So, so it just kind of was like, you know what? It's a lot easier for me to not expect my friends to listen.
Sure.
And not expect people to pay attention than to be like, hey, did you listen to my show?
Yeah.
It was kind of, screw it. If they listen, they listen. And also I think if my friends did listen, I'd give a damn a little bit more, like about what they might hear. And now it's just a lot easier just to kind of be anonymous.
Yeah, and the other thing is that if you don't have expectations, you won't have disappointment. That's
as far as our aesthetics go.
No, I think that applies in all aspects of life.
Yeah.
Seriously, like if you're expecting someone to be a certain way or behave a certain way or do something and they don't, it leads to disappointment.
Yeah.
So if you take those expectations and you throw them out the window, nobody's disappointed. No hurt feelings. Nobody's upset. And I've got good friends that know I do a podcast, but they're still trying to figure out what a podcast is.
Yeah.
And how many times have you had that conversation with people?
It's like radio on the internet.
Yeah. And I can see the wheels spinning because that, it really isn't radio on the internet because there is no such thing. But that's the closest analogy we can give people.
Yeah, exactly. That's all you can really say.
Yeah, my dad still asks me about once every 2 months, so how do I listen to that? And I'm just like, go to thetrailshow.com and click play.
Yeah.
And he knows how to use a browser.
Yeah.
He can turn a computer on. He can navigate to a website.
Yeah.
And he can make his mouse click an arrow that makes something play. But but then he thinks he has to sit and listen to all 2 hours in a row or he'll never be able to hear it again. And that's where I'm at with.
Yeah, I think that's where you're, like what you were saying earlier. I think we're all still kind of programmed. Us older folk, we're programmed that we sit down, we watch the 30-minute show because this is when it's on.
Sure.
And so I think that's what some people have. It's like, well, I didn't finish that show. It's like, yeah, like I knew we were going to talk about podcasts. I went and actually counted on I have my phone, but then I just use an iPod for work when I have that. I don't have everything. Since it's Android, I'll be the first to admit it. Having an Android phone is.
Oh, I love my Android phone.
I love it, but for podcasts, it's not as easy as having iTunes.
I use Stitcher.
Yeah.
Yeah, and no knock on Stitcher. I mean, they're basically providing a free service.
Yeah.
The audio quality is condensed.
Yeah.
And you're not getting the exact fidelity of the original recording that's submitted to Stitcher.
No.
As far as I can tell.
Did they ever break up one of your shows and put commercials in it?
Not yet. I think they're headed that way.
I think they did that early on with some. Somebody told me once they heard a commercial during our show, and I was like, for what?
That ain't. That's not cool, but I guess.
They're providing it for free.
Yeah.
It's one of those where
And I like it because, so I've got Bluetooth on my phone, and I've got a little Bluetooth speaker at the house.
Yeah.
So I can listen to podcasts through Stitcher over Bluetooth, and there's no wires. I'm a big fan of the least amount of wires is a better situation.
Yeah.
And you should see our podcasting setup, by the way. There's 3,000 wires.
I was looking at a picture the other day of your most recent episode, and you had.
Oh my God!
You had something in front of you. You had something on the couch next to you.
Yeah, I got the soundboard on the left.
Okay.
I've got the laptop in front. I've got the mic stand with an iPad attached to the mic stand
that's right.
on the side, and a beer cup holder on the mic stand.
Oh wow!
That way, and so the mic's on a mic stand, so I'm hands-free. And I have to be, really, because I'm at any given time, I'm going to iPad, to soundboard, to beer.
Yeah, yeah.
The beer's very important.
Yeah. And it sounds like you guys have is it Dilo or Mags that always dumps their beer into something?
It's Dilo.
Yeah.
Always. It's usually on Mag's carpet, because we're doing the show at Mag's house now. We used to do it at Dilo's.
Yeah.
And Dilo's got a kid, and, we were basically going to wreck the guy's marriage at some point. So we had to get out of there. And Mags, it's just him and his wife, and they were gracious enough to say, use the living room.
Go for it, yeah.
And they have I'm going to get this wrong. It's like a guinea pig. Maybe not a guinea pig. It's some animal that's some odd animal.
Capybara.
Yeah, maybe. And it sits over there while we do the show.
Yeah.
And so we do have an audience. We have a live in-studio audience. It's this guinea pig named, I think it's Charlie or Frankie. I don't know, something like that. It's pretty cool. A little mascot, little trail show mascot.
You know what, folks? I'm going to take Disco's advice, and I'm going to split this episode up into 2 parts. I still have over an hour and a half to edit. And we haven't even had our pee break yet. All right, so we have a lot more to go. Do us a favor. Don't let us down on this one, okay? Part 2 isn't part 2 because it's not as good. It's just there's a whole lot that we talked about in this episode. All right, so let's make a deal. You guys download episode 2 next week. I'm going to put episode 2 out next week. And then if people like it, I'll put out OPP9 with Bert Kreischer and Tom Rhodes. That's right. You can hear Tom Rhodes and I talk about Blind Melon or whatever we talked about, okay? All right. So do us all a favor. Go to iTunes, subscribe to the Pox and Puss podcast, and subscribe to The Trail Show. All right. While you're there, give us both 5-star reviews. I don't know about them, but if you give us a 5-star review and you curse us out, that's just fine. As long as it's 5 stars, we will rate it, okay? Also, go to AppalachianTrials.com, scroll down to the bottom of the page, and you'll see our section. And while you're there, go ahead and register at the Thru-Hiker Registry. Also, I believe Zach Davis just put out some brand spanking new T-shirts for Appalachian Trials. And guess what? Our Etsy shop is back, baby. All right? Ugh, I didn't like the way that sounded, but I'm going to leave it in there. All right, so stay tuned for next week. And, enjoy your life. All right. See you, fuckers.
Damn it. Hell. Son of a bitch.